Hello and welcome to Blythe Business News. Today I'm joined by Mark Learmonth, who is Chief Executive of Caledonia Mining Corporation. Caledonia listed on the New York Stock Exchange, the London AIM market, and also the Victoria Falls Exchange in Zimbabwe. At all three exchanges, you can find the company with a symbol, a ticker of CMCL, and a market capitalisation of around £222 million sterling. The company is well known for operating the Blanket gold mine in Zimbabwe, which has been generating dividends for many a year now. But as we're about to hear, I hope, also some other assets in the portfolio, and let's find out how they're being developed. The company has just announced its full year results, which happens to also be the calendar year of 2022. Mark, welcome back on the programme. You've just done the full year results. Can you please start by talking us through the financial highlights?
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Revenue's up from $122 million to about $140 million, driven entirely by higher production, which increased from 67,000 ounces to just under 81,000 ounces. The gold price would be largely flat. EBITDA up from 46 million to 50 million, and very strong cash flows. Operating cash flows before working capital are about $1 million a week. So very strong cash flows. Profit down very slightly. Adjusted profit down from about 226 cents a share to about 220 cents a share. Frankly, I don't worry about that too much. Our financial, our IFRS profits are subject to all sorts of background noise, things like very large foreign exchange gains and losses, mainly unrealized, and other stuff. So really, we focus on the cash generation. So it was a good year financially. It was very good. Our operating costs, well under control. On-mine costs, 2021 was 742, 2022 was $735 an ounce. So still a very low cost operator. And that's largely driven by higher production levels, which means we spread fixed costs over higher ounces.
Okay, well let's look at the production. In your news release, which you've just put out, you described this year as a turning point for Caledonia. So just talk us through this turning point year in terms of what you've been doing at the operating level.
Well, it's a turning point not so much in operations, although it is a turning point in operations, but it's a much bigger turning point in our sort of strategic direction. So just dealing with it, well, operations first. Clearly, we've now achieved our target run rate of 80,000 ounces a year. It'll probably continue at about that level, 75 to 80,000 ounces a year, I'd have thought, for the next out until about 2032. And then beyond that, we're optimistic that we'll continue to find further material at depth and in shallower areas, so we can maintain that production level for more years. If we find stuff, there is potential maybe to increase production at Blanket a little bit, but I doubt nothing significant. Perhaps 85, 90,000 ounces, but nothing really significant. So yeah, but the point is, having achieved 80,000 ounces, and there's still some work to go in terms of finishing off the Central Shaft project and the haulage developments from there. But that's well in hand now. We can really see the end of that. So what it means is that the higher production level, we have much more money and much more management capacity to actually turn our attention to new projects. And so last year we had it's almost like, after many years of chasing the projects that we really like in Zimbabwe, they all appeared at once, like buses. So late 2021, we acquired Marley Green for $4 million in cash. Since then, that had 1 million ounces of inferred. Since then, we've done work to upgrade half of that to measured and indicated, and the other half remains in inferred. And then late last year, November last year, we acquired an asset called Matapa. But the big asset is a deal that we announced in July last year, and which we closed in January this year, this January just gone, which is the acquisition of Bilboes, which has over 2.5 million ounces, very good grade of 2.2 grams a ton. And that really does sort of give us a clear trajectory to go from being a single asset 80,000 ounce a year producer to with Bilboes, a two asset company producing about 250,000 ounces a year. And then that's even before you start taking account of what we hope to get from Matapa and Marley Green. So we've really turned the corner And we've got an objective over the next sort of 7 years or so of becoming a sort of 350 500,000 ounce a year producer focused on Zimbabwe. So that is the real change in our in who we are and where we think we're going.
Well, Mark, it's been a busy day for you because not only have you announced the full year results, you've also announced a fundraise. You're raising money in London and also in Zimbabwe. Give us a quick overview, please. How much are you raising and where are you raising it? And what are you going to use that money for?
Yeah, well, we think in US dollar terms. So if you don't mind, I'll talk in US dollars because I'm bound to get the conversion to sterling wrong. We're looking to do about $10 million in through AIM, and that will also include investors from South Africa, where we've had some good interactions recently. Then perhaps about $3 million in Zimbabwe. So perhaps 13 gross in total, and the uses for that will be to accelerate work on these new projects that we've acquired. So the first thing we want to do is we want to do our own feasibility study at Bilboes. There is already an existing feasibility study, but we want to do our own, which does two things: updates it for the current environment, because I mean clearly the environment has changed quite dramatically over the course of the last year, but also to investigate the possibility of doing a phased approach to that project with a view to minimizing the upfront cost, therefore minimizing potential dilution, and therefore maximizing net present value per share for Caledonia shareholders. And then, having acquired the Motapa asset late last year, we're anxious to start exploration there as quickly as we can, with two objectives. First, in the long term, to find a sulfide resource. Now, it may be if we can find a sulfide resource at Motapa quickly, that could actually be used to feed into the Bilboes property earlier than we'd expected, because the two are completely adjacent. And then in the short term, we're also looking to see if we can't find some oxide material at Motapa, which we could turn to account quite quickly in the same way that we're doing that at Bilboes. Then a shared services centre in Bulawayo to begin to realise synergies. It would provide sort of financial services, HR, sort of stock receiving, procurement, that sort of stuff for both Blanket and for the Bilboes and Motapa, which are sort of just further north in Bulawayo. And then finally, commence real on-the-ground exploration at Marley Green.
Okay, so there we are. We've got Blanket doing well. You've now raising money, start moving the other projects forward as well. Production coming out of Bilboes quite soon, is that right?
Yes, there is. I mean, the main focus at Bilboes, I don't want people to get distracted by this, but the main focus at Bilboes is a very substantial gold mining operation focused on sulfide material, which is slightly deeper. And that'll be 168, 170,000 ounces a year for 10 years. But in the short term, i.e. from next week and for the next sort of 24 to 30 months or so, there is also a small oxide mining and processing operation at Bilboes, which had been running for years. It's just the previous owners ran out of money because they needed to chase the oxide ore a little bit deeper, which obviously we can do that. And that is, we started the doing the mining work, which is really sort of excavating and hauling earlier on this month, and we're using a heap leach methodology. Then we expect the first gold to come out of the heap leach literally at the end of this month, and then thereafter, it should be generating anything like $1 million of free cash flow a month for the next sort of 2.5 years, which is a nice increment in our cash flows.
You've had a busy day, you've got a lot of news out, but we're always greedy for more. So what should viewers, what should shareholders, investors be looking for in the next couple of months to be coming out of Caledonia?
Well, you'll see the typical progression of production at Blanket Mine is that it sort of starts the year at a lower production level and then typically increases towards the end of the year. So we reiterate our guidance for the year for 75 to 80,000 ounces from Blanket, but I think people should be looking to see the oxide plant at Bilboes begin to gather steam, and then frankly it's really going to be a process of sort of stabilizing. We've covered an awful lot of ground over the course of the last sort of 18 months or so. And I think over the next certainly for the balance of this year, it's going to be a question of stabilizing, getting things running nicely, and start to begin to increase our cash balances so that we're better positioned to, make the big jump, depending on how we choose to do that at Bilboes.
Mark, thanks for that. Come back, keep us informed. That was Mark Learmonth, Chief Executive of Caledonia Mining, giving us a very good update there on the full year results for the financial year ended December 2022, and also the fundraising announced this morning. That's it from this edition of Blythe Ray Business News. Thanks for watching.